Chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. When the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, the Lord has sent me to Bethel." But Elisha said, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. The company of the prophets at Bethel came out to Elisha and asked, "Do you know that the Lord is going to take your master from you today?" "Yes, I know," Elisha replied, "so be quiet." Then Elijah said to him, "Stay here, Elisha. Lord has sent me to Jericho." And he replied, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So they went to Jericho. The company of the prophets of Jericho went up to Elisha and asked him, "Do you know that the Lord is going to take your master from you today?" "Yes, I know," he replied, "so be quiet." Then Elijah said to him, "Stay here. The Lord has sent me to Jordan." And he replied, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So the two of them walked on. 50 men from the company of the prophets went and stood at a distance, facing the place where Elijah and Elisha had stopped at the Jordan. Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water with it. The water divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them crossed over on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I am taken from you?" "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit," Elisha replied. "You have asked a difficult thing," Elijah said. Yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it will be yours. Otherwise, it will not be." As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them. And Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw this and cried out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." And Elisha saw him no more. Then he took hold of his garment and tore it in two.
Dying is hard work. When someone is preparing for their homegoing into the great mystery of death, the very best thing people around them can do is to get very quiet, to darken the room. Sometimes people have to leave so a person can die alone in silence. The prophet Elijah is preparing to meet his maker in today's text. He's making a pilgrimage of sorts, the way people do when they're getting ready to cross over. He's looking back over his life, considering the places that hold significant memories for himself and for his people. Elijah is part of a very particular group of individuals. Picture a collection of highly intuitive, slightly eccentric mystics. That's who Elijah is traveling with. He's traveling with a group of prophets. He is chief among them. And his protege is Elisha. He is as close to Elisha as any father and son would be. And so you might imagine that as he's preparing for his leave-taking, Elisha is communicating with the people he's traveling with, and there's almost an excitement because they anticipate it will be a big to-do, and indeed it will be, with a whirlwind of firing chariots and horses and so forth. But it's also a point of great sadness, especially for Elisha, who's about to lose his mentor. So Elijah is leading the prophets, his companions, through a series of remembrances. And matriarchs and patriarchs, they do this, don't they? If we're lucky, as they prepare to leave this earth, they start telling stories about their history, about their ancestors. You know, I've noticed a trend over the last decade of people putting little sticky notes on the bottoms of things around their house that they want various people to have. And this is kind of a way of saying, this is who you are. Remember who you are and where you came from. So Elijah's doing that with the prophets, and he wants his beloved community to remember that they came from a story that included Jericho. Do you remember this? We used to sing this in choir, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho. Well, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and it was the beginning of the division of the lands between the 12 tribes of Israel. And so Elijah wants the prophets to remember this journey out of slavery and into freedom. Only now, as he recreates this path, he's pointing to another kind of freedom, that ultimate freedom that comes in death. Elijah was a wise teacher. He was teaching right up until the moment that he died. This is how people would describe him, as a great teacher. This is how people will remember him. Elisha, his protege, his student, his beloved, was not ready for Elijah to die. So remember when I said the best thing we can do when someone's getting ready to die is to get very quiet? Well, Elisha won't shut up. He won't leave him alone. He won't give him any space. He just keeps after him. Just keeps after him. When you go, I'm going to need a double portion of your spirit because he's not ready. And he's afraid that he can't live up to this larger than life character that Elijah is to his community. Elijah, his name literally means Yahweh is my God. He is, in terms of the prophets, he's right up there with Moses. He's one of the few prophets that's known both in the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim traditions as a prophet of great note. Right? So Elisha is right to be a little intimidated. Eventually, Elisha also lives into his legacy, becoming an activist and a revolutionary, really, for the Jewish people. He also fights a holy war. That's another sermon for another day. But as I study these passages, I find myself asking questions about succession, about legacy, identity, and ancestry. I feel like we're living in a moment in time that demands clarity. It demands that we know who we come from and who we are and who people will say that we were. When I think about my parents and my in-laws, I feel like I know very well who they are. When they pass, which God willing will not be anytime soon, I know in my heart that I will know how to describe them. Describe who they were to me, to my family, to the community, to the world. But I haven't given as much thought to what people might say about me. How would I describe myself now? How might others describe me when I'm gone? But I think it's never too early to think about one's legacy because we should be living the way we want to be remembered. And so maybe a better question is, how are we living now? And what part of our living will be remembered? Elijah and Elisha, they led the people they loved and served to freedom. They led the people they loved and served to freedom. And friends, that is the call of faith. Over and over again, we are called to lead people to freedom. So I wonder, how do our lives, how does our living open up a path of freedom for others? It's important to remember that neither Elisha or Elijah were perfect. They were people who made mistakes, people who were afraid. But they had something that gave them courage. Remember, they traveled with a group of like-minded mystics, prophets. And we have that too. We have each other. So I wonder, if you're having trouble knowing who you are, what people might say about you, ask a church family member to tell you how they see you, so that you might begin to wrap your mind around your own goodness. There's a song that I like to sing, and the line is, I will believe the truth about myself no matter how beautiful it is. Sometimes we need some help to see the ways in which our lives really are paving the way to freedom for others. When I think about my parents and in-laws, I would describe them as part of the last great churched generation. The generation that understood the value of doing for others regardless of the cost for self. The generation that understood how important it was to be generous, both civically and familially, if that's a word. They were always thinking about the next generation, always there for us in our trials and tribulations, always there trying to help us get a foothold into the next chapter of our lives. They've indeed paved a way for the next generation through providing years and years of support and encouragement around our education, around access to education, and to the arts, above and beyond what public education could provide. They taught us about marriage and children, and they instilled, I think, a set of moral standards from which I find I draw every day of my life. As for myself, I think I would settle for being remembered as one who loved and maybe encouraged others to love too. But I'm still working on it, so stay tuned. Happy Valentine's Day. Amen. I will come to you in the silence. I will lift you from all your fears. You will hear my voice. I claim you as my choice. Be still now and know I am here. I am hope for all who are hopeless. I am eyes for all who long to see. In the shadows of the night, I will be your light. Come and rest in me. Do not be afraid, I am with you. I have called you each by name. Come and follow me, and I will bring you home. I love you, and you are mine. I am strength for all the despairing. I am healing I